What's That's okay. What's up, Automation Nation? We're here in Stuart, Florida at Printed Patio, where they are printing live here with a vertical printer on a rail system. They just finished that pot over there. Now they're doing this curvy wall. They did all kinds of cool parametric designs supported by Sinterform Designs, and they've got a bunch of prints. They've been super productive lately. We're gonna take a look around their facility, and we'll even get Justin mic'd up and ask him a few questions. So make sure to drop those in the comments if you have any. Good position. All right. Justin, what do you guys have printed today?
So today we're doing a couple of projects. It's all in the architectural accent range. We went from a small planter to a interesting parametric accent wall. As it's printing, you'll see it's going to have multiple ripple shapes and different interesting geometries in it. And it's going to be the front cladding of a reception desk.
Very cool. And you guys have been busy. I see a lot of prints around here.
Yeah.
I've got some, should we take a look at something?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll follow you.
So I'll actually start over here. So we got a couple different things. So we're experimenting with privacy screens. So these will obviously print in a much taller height, but we wanted to see how they would look. Again, when you stack them together, it's nice because it lets wind through, but at the same time, it provides a nice privacy barrier. This is a similar type of thing that we're printing today, except just different shape. We're calling this the ripple wall. Unfortunately, I have the orientation to this pointed the wrong way, but this is a Tesla charging station.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I don't know if at some point you're able to get a look from the other side, but yeah, it nicely houses a charging unit, keeps it safe from the elements.
Me too.
Exactly. Yep. So kind of we're focusing this on kind of like a light commercial application. So think like apartment complexes and stuff where you want to have the ability to charge, but at the same time. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So we do some images on it. So the shelf life is at least 6 months. It could be up to a year. Tough in Florida, but again, we're in a climate-controlled space, so it's pretty nice. But we're obviously moving through the material a lot faster than the shelf life. So yeah, so far that's been nice. That's a quick creep product, by the way, that we've formulated with them. Here you get examples of the different kinds of planters and things. Some items you see a little darker. That was just printed yesterday, so these are all through various states of curing. And in some cases, we're actually going to apply a concrete stain or colorant after the fact, along with a sealer to bring some vibrancy to the items.
That gold looks really natural and inviting, kind of. You can put it on.
That was the mistake. That was the mistake that we can't replicate. That was actually our very first print in here at Printed Patio.
My favorite one.
Yeah, yeah. We got to figure out how we can duplicate it. But it's kind of a happy accident. So yeah, so you see all kinds of stuff here. And then as you move over to this segment, there's some cool things we've got going on. Particularly this coffee table. This was designed by Justin at Sinterform Designs. It's pretty interesting because he actually modeled this based on creating a circle in the file and then putting fungus spores around the circle and moving a light source digitally around the circle. And the natural element of the growth that you see there is how the growth was attracted to the light. All kinds of small pillars. We experimented with the wine rack, which actually people at the last show we were at really found interesting. And then all types of columns. So you'll see our columns deployed right now at Printed Farms, but we've got these two going in to replace an existing porch stand. And this is actually a really nice example of why being parametric is nice. These two columns, although they look the same, are actually about 1.25 inches difference in height. And when we went out to site to measure the existing columns, we found that was the situation. So in traditional precast, you would have had to take a mold, 2 different molds, but with 3D printing, we were able to do just one item. And that was kind of a cool thing.
It really shows off a lot of the different parametric design stuff you guys came to.
Totally. And there's just so many more. I mean, right, your imagination is a limitation, and that's, yeah.
And beyond that, now we have AI's imagination.
Now we have AI, yeah. Yeah, so there's so many cool things we can do.
That's an awesome shelf unit over there, too.
Yeah, we got the Voronoi wall in the back.
Looks like something out of the Flintstones or something.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. And then this gives you an idea once we apply pigment And this is an aftercoat. It's sprayed on, but the nice thing with that is it gives us so many different color options. Literally, we can almost color match.
You got your cleaning station over here.
Got the cleaning station.
Forklift.
Forklift.
Through the printing process where you load it up and then what?
Sure. Yeah. So if we're following the actual print, so we'll load one of those super sacks up into the silo. Silo holds about a sack and a half. Then it's dosed here with water. This is the Multi-Mix 3D by My. Dosing everything in the exact water specifications required. Drops it into a secondary hopper. Then it gets pumped over to the robotic arm. The robotic arm obviously follows the print path. And because it's a vertical system, we're also injecting accelerant, which allows us to do these interesting geometries and shapes that you're seeing happen now.
Yeah, and you guys have a really efficient startup process, maybe bucket of material, and you got it going real quick.
Exactly. Yep. We've had to do a couple different iterations on the machine at this point. So Mai actually sent us last month a new, more powerful motor. We went from a 3 kilowatt motor to a 4 kilowatt motor, and that helped us move through some compaction issues that we were having. The interesting thing about that is all of our data up to that point was rendered useless because we had to re-establish a baseline of the water content to the concrete. So it was almost like going through that process again. And I think at this point we're pretty much worked out, but there's always something new and different that's changing in the field, right? So it's a lot of fun. Interesting, most recent project is a very large planner that you see on the opposite side of the existing print, and that has a logo extruded out. So it gives you another idea to some of the stuff that you can do.
Yeah, let's take a look.
Yep. So it probably shows up on camera a little better, but in the future we might expand it out a little bit, but it's just kind of cool to see. And ultimately this one's going to be dyed a sand color, and then the logo is actually going to be painted over so it really calls it out.
And you got some rebar in the print?
Yeah, so we just have these little galvanized pins. We're basically strategically placing them everywhere that there's a support line coming through, just because the front wall with all the ripples is going to be a little heavier, and we don't want it to fall forward. It shouldn't happen in general, but it's a precautionary measure that we're taking.
Will these be insulated or backfilled?
This isn't going to get any backfill or insulation because it's just going to be a front cladding of a reception desk. It's going to get like a wood topper, a very small one, and it'll create like a lip where people coming into the store can kind of, and it'll hide all the stuff on the desk behind it.
Yeah, I realized that after. I can. I've done it on previous ones. I just completely forgot. I'm trying to put these guys in when I see them. Mostly it's the hooks.
Anything you want to pitch? You guys trying to hire, fundraise?
We were just recently accepted into the FAU Tech Runway as a startup accelerator program. So that press release actually just went out yesterday, so we were able to reveal that we're part of that program. That culminates in the venture capital pitch. So we are going to be considering picking a venture capital investment to expand our footprint and maybe open up additional locations nationally. But that's not 100% our move yet. We want to still work on the local market, and I think we still have a few things to prove before we take that step.
What about potential clients?
Potential clients, if you're in the domain of architecture, landscape architecture, commercial property development, landscape design in general, that's exactly our key type of client. So anybody that wants to get more information on that, feel free to reach out. And yeah, we're always happy to talk and chat, and you'll find that we're pretty open too about the process. So even other concrete companies, we love to make the connections.
Cool.
Any specific questions come in yet?
No, just a lot of support.
Cool. Yeah, it's a lot of fun when you start printing walls and elements with different parametric designs in them, because you get to see it take shape as you go, and it's kind of rewarding watching the print experience.
Automation.
Automation, it's beautiful.
How tall is this going?
Justin, what's the total height of this one? It's like, yeah, it's like 4.5 feet or something, right?
Yeah, it's about 4 inches over the desk height.
Good height.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be clear.
Or maybe it was 3. Maybe it was 3.5.
We're doing with all the different nozzle prints and stuff.
Yeah.
Hey guys, so this is Printed Patio, not Printed Farms. They're both in Florida and start with printed, but these guys aren't farmers. You want to take it?
Yeah, sure. So your question was that there's a hose on the extruder, and what's the function of it? So obviously the big black one, right, is your concrete, and then the small clear PTFE tubing that's coming in underneath it, that's for the accelerant. And it splits off in a Y valve because there's also water, so we can do a flushing operation through that hose as well. Let me know if you have any more questions. Happy to answer.
Maybe you can talk about the project you do with Printed Farms after the question. Sure.
I'm not sure I understand the question of brown gas and earth. If you're referring to kind of like an Adobe clay type of thing for printing, just because we don't have the experience in working with that yet, and the concrete sets up better for us.
So you guys have collaborated with Printed Farms, right?
Yep. Yeah. So we have a collaboration with Printed Farms, and as far as I know, we may be one of the first companies to do a collaboration using two different types of printing technologies. But basically, Printed Farms, as some of you may be aware, have one of the world's largest 3D printed structures, and we contributed the columns that are outlining the structures that we did here in our facility, and then we transported them to the site where they were installed over a rebar cage and then backfill with concrete to become structural.
What's in store for the future of Printed Patio?
So we've got a couple interesting projects coming up. In terms of size, we are doing our first home print. It's going to be quite an interesting one, and potentially one type of record holder where we are printing the structure here in modules, and they are being transported all the way out to Washington State to create the house. And Jarek can fact check me, but I think that may be one of the furthest transportation distances of a prefabricated printed module. So we'll have to see.
The vase that you guys put in my car.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, then of a construction element, like of a finished construction element. And then we are hoping to do another reef. It's going to be an actual ocean deployment in the coming future. We don't have a wall smoother as well. So.
Why would you smooth this beautiful parametric design wall? What are you talking about?
Right, exactly. So, yeah, so we don't actually want to smooth this one, right? Because it's gonna create a design. Okay, and I see another question about the curing process. So, the concrete is accelerated. So, as you see, it has an initial set of about a minute. In some cases, it can be less if we increase the accelerant, and then it'll sit on the print bed overnight. The next morning, it moves off to another area of our warehouse over where the planters are, and we like everything to cure for at least 3 days to up to a week before we transport it to its job location. We cure it in here because it's a controlled environment again. We try to keep a relatively decent humidity level of around 50%, and it's just an ideal curing state for it. Some stuff can get covered or tented if we want to really trap in additional humidity. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yep.
As always, I like to point out the bravery required to print live. Not every team is willing to print in front of people. Some groups talk about printing all the time, and they're never actually doing it. They're just talking about it. They might not even have a system themselves. There's a lot of self-proclaimed experts out here, but we're here with Printed Patio, and they're doing the thing in front of you live. Anything can happen. Anything does happen will happen. We got another question for you.
Yep. So the question was, do we fiber cord the compound? So I guess there's two different ways to look at that question. So one, are there fibers in the concrete mix that we're mixing up? In this one, the answer is no. This material is a very simplistic concrete mix. It's predominantly Portland cement, sand, and Quikrete added a polymer, but there are no microfibers in this. And then I've seen other companies start to actually lay fiber between the layers, and we don't have that technology yet. But it's something that maybe we'll be considering for the future. How do you pull up the comments? All right, I see some questions coming through, so I'm just going to try and go through them. Oh, okay. So somebody says brown gas hydrogen would turn the earth into stone. That's interesting. So that might just be a technical item that I personally haven't heard of yet. I'll definitely look into it. So thanks for the recommendation. Let's see. The cost of production per item when time compared to using molds. So it really depends on if you get into kind of the mass production element. We look at our primary market right now in planters because we just have an easier time selling those, and we're looking at kind of the wholesale market. When compared to a concrete precasted planter, we're actually coming in a little cheaper to our customers than the equivalent precast. And the other nice thing about it is we can do very small batch or even individual unique items, right? Because we don't have to create a mold. All we need is a digital file, and we end up with our end print item. Multi-head printer would be pretty cool. The printer itself is a Vertico printer, and they're out of the Netherlands. And somebody mentioned a thesis question. All right, Ray, master's thesis about the use of 3D concrete printing in Maine. So basically, how do you plan the gap time of printing layers? So when you talk about the gap time of printing layers, you're talking about like what the layer time is from one layer to the next. It's basically a combination of what our default printing speed is. We print anywhere from 70 to 100 millimeters per second. And then that determines the layer time in conjunction with the object. And we make it work by changing the accelerant dosage. So we either increase or decrease the accelerant dosage to get the set that we want. I haven't timed this one as it's going around, but this looks like it might be 1 minute per layer. But if you look next to it and see the little planter, that's probably a 17-second layer.
So you did an additive change between?
Yeah, so we actually ended up lowering the accelerant for one, because the item is larger, and then secondly, because the longer we print, the hotter the print head gets and the faster that exothermic reaction happens. So even if we just printed the same object over and over again and we left the accelerant consistent, by the time we're done printing for the day, we'll end up with curing cracks because the heat just kind of piles up and that reaction happens so much faster.
Just goes to show how many variables there are that might not be initially obvious.
Absolutely. And that's one of the key elements of, I think something that we're doing a little bit differently is we have this great dashboard and monitoring system where we're tracking all types of data points, from our pump pressure to our temperatures at different points in the system at any given moment, and that helps us identify where we need to be with the variables that we're able to adjust. And then Justin from Cineform Design just confirmed we're at a 45-second layer on time on this particular print. How's the accelerant looking? Is it setting up like should we be lowering it?
Should we give Justin the mic?
Yeah, Justin, you want to talk?
Have anything to say?
Don't want to talk for now.
Okay.
This is going to be okay. Yeah, I only asked. Typically, I don't talk much about this. Okay.
This one is slightly dry, and then I see it again. I brought down maybe add a little water. Make it a little more wet then. seller wants that, then maybe you make more weather ones that. All right.
Thank you guys so much for joining. I don't know if you know this or not, but YouTube is my favorite audience and always will be. Even though we only have 10 people on the live today, it's much cooler than the TikTok I'll do after this with 100,000 people. So you're the realest, and if you want to keep up with us over on the next platform, you can follow us over there too.